Hello and welcome. You're watching FYI. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. Now, yesterday we looked at why 2021. In this year, we've seen a sudden spike in Indian students wanting to study abroad. We discussed 5 reasons behind it, and we also looked at the changing trends in the choice of countries they choose to study now. Today is part 2 of our series where we look at young professionals who are looking at more long-term plans. These are businessmen, corporate professionals looking at shifting base and get residency abroad for themselves and their families. FYI spoke with at least a dozen visa immigration service providers, most of whom said that there has been an unprecedented increase in the number of people inquiring about procedures to immigrate to those countries in the last 2 months. Which are these countries? We'll talk about that on the program as well. But primarily, why is that happening? Is this brain drain? And is all of this movement and migration triggered by India's COVID management? Today on the program, no explainers for you, but we've got case studies. People who've made this life-changing decision, and some even shut shop here in India to start from scratch in a foreign land. What's their trigger? Joining us also on the program will be experts on the travel and tourism sector, and we will try and understand from them some emerging trends that are also coming up. First up, let's go to our case studies. We have with us today Immaculate Fernandez. She is a young woman just like us and wants to now shift base completely to a foreign land. Let's come to you first, Immaculate. What's been your trigger? And if you could give me, say, your top 3 reasons why you've made this decision.
Sure. Thank you so much. COVID was an eye-opener to the health care and infrastructure that we have today. And New Zealand looked really promising to me for education opportunities in aged care. So that would help me equip myself as well as an individual, and also I do have extended family who are doctors and dentists in New Zealand as well. So I'm really looking forward to the borders to open and learn more about the government organized healthcare sector, infrastructure, and also to equip myself as a professional.
All right, so you're moving to New Zealand. Could you tell us why New Zealand?
Definitely. Like I mentioned already, you know, they have a very organized and government-led infrastructure as well, which means that if I were earning a minimum wage, my taxes would contribute to the government, and that in turn would help me, you know, as well at a time where I am, I'm also getting a benefit at a later stage where I can't. So I think this was one of the very exciting things, and also the way and their quality, superior quality of healthcare infrastructure.
All right, so what I'm hearing from you is better healthcare infrastructure and better opportunities as well. And that has been your driver to try and make a life in New Zealand. All right, let's go across to our experts also. We have Purvi back with us on the program. Purvi, you had lots of insights when it came to students wanting to migrate, wanting to study abroad, but young professionals as well. If you could talk us through some trends that are emerging.
Definitely. So as an immigration attorney, we see trends very closely. So definitely there is a spike in the demand for work permits in most countries from young people, for young people. We've also seen a spike in applications under the direct application processes in countries like Australia and Canada, which have point-based systems where an individual can go online and actually just put in their details and see if they qualify. Canada's Express Entry program is extremely popular, and it works very well for healthcare professionals, for IT professionals, for people in the telecom technology sector, etc. So definitely there is a spike, and these are the most popular destinations.
Right. Let me go across to Jyoti Malay as well. She's the President of Travel Agents Association of India and the Vice Chairperson of Federation of Association in Tourism and Hospitality. Jyoti, we're talking at a time when healthcare is a living room conversation, right? This is guiding all our decisions now. Do you think that is the primary reason why more and more people are wanting to sort of shift base?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sonu. I think it's a wonderful question, and COVID has accelerated the entire perspective of moving out. So the migration started at seeing a spike, and children wanted to go out and study more and more, and we've seen that happening in UK especially, where the numbers have literally tripled, since the last couple of years. And they want to go out because they feel it's a safer environment, and the health and medical facilities are much better. And because they've seen the struggle, especially in the COVID phase of the second happening, I think they're just wanting to get out from here, and even parents are wanting to move out with them. So we see that spike happening a lot.
Interesting you mentioned about parents, because we got some data from the Department of Home Affairs in Australia, and if we can put that up for our viewers on the screen as well, that talks about nearly a 30% rise in just the parent visa applications. These are, of course, Indian Australians who've been settled there all this while, but parents wanted to stay rooted in the country. And now they're saying those numbers have gone up, essentially telling us that kids are saying, well, we don't know if we'll be able to help you around. If another wave was supposed to come, at least come here and be close to us. That's supposed to be the driver at this point on what it looks like. And it's not just Australia, it's other countries as well. But a lot of this is also guided by new norms that have come. And I'll come to that in just a bit. But let's go back to our case studies now. And let's go across to a couple. We've got Prasad and Ishita Mehta join us. Prasad, hi. Hi. Thanks so much for being with us and talking us through why this massive decision that you have taken in your life. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself, Prasad, and also tell us what sort of guided you towards Auckland, I'm told.
Yeah. So basically, I'm into hospitality since last 10 years now. And one of the reasons that I wanted to move to Auckland was a better education and better job opportunity. And apart from that, it's a good country for people who want to pursue hospitality. So that was one of the major driver, to go there and settle abroad.
Right. And Ishita, if I can ask you, was this decision taken before the pandemic or post that?
Yes, we did take the decision before pandemic, and we were about to go and this COVID struck.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. And now has the pandemic, has everything that's been going on and the horror of the second wave, has that been a trigger at all?
Yes, it's not a trigger. The decision was already made, and yeah, the more and more when we look towards the work opportunities over here versus in any other country like New Zealand, we find that the exposure and the work opportunities for us as a couple are more over there as compared to over here. So yes, it has been a trigger, especially in the COVID situation where the people are losing their jobs and countries like New Zealand are opened up. We definitely, that's a trigger for us to move there. Yeah.
I see. So what I'm hearing from you guys is it's not just the medical infrastructure and healthcare, but actually growth opportunities that has been a major driver as well. Let me take that back to our panel, and Kishore is with us. Kishore, do you want to weigh in on that? GDP numbers not looking very good, employment numbers not looking very good. That is also one of the triggers?
That could be one of the triggers, but I'd like to go back a bit and tell you something about immigration. I've been in it for 20 years. 20 years ago, people did not realize the opportunities that were available there. But with the expansion of English medium education, the youngsters have grown up and they realize they watch a lot of TV, they read the newspapers. Now they've understood what are the differences between here and going abroad. And of course, the income levels are much higher abroad, because when you convert into Indian currency, it makes a huge difference. Any of these countries, whether you take Canada, Australia, US, even New Zealand, whatever, the dollars are high and people earn a lot more. Also, the health.
Kishore, can I interrupt over there and say this? There is also a parallel reality. There is a parallel reality. I mean, look at the times we are speaking in. We are talking at a time when a lot of startups are now going public. We're talking at a time when Zomato has gone public. There are so many other. This was supposed to be reverse brain drain, right? This is supposed to be a time when, for Startup India, for people, young professionals, talented individuals to understand that India is also a land of opportunity. And while that is happening, we now suddenly are seeing a spike. Of course, 2020 was a lull period because generally the numbers which would have applied sort of crushed in. So we're seeing the 2021 numbers sort of a cumulative figure as well. But I'm just trying to understand the drivers this time around, and if this is more than just COVID, or is this primarily COVID sort of linked up with our current economic status?
Undoubtedly, there's been a spike due to COVID, but the numbers have been steadily increasing over the last 20 years. I would say that Australia and New Zealand both have benefited enormously from the increase in numbers, and let's face it, they have very good infrastructure. The jobs are there, and the jobs are high paying. And now, as you talked about young professionals, there are a lot of young professionals who probably married, they have a couple of children, and they want their children to grow up in those countries because its lifestyle is better. Not that there's too much wrong in India, but the lifestyle is better, the air is cleaner, it's much more, tuned into the rest of the world. So people want their children to grow up there, apart from the fact that they also want to get some good opportunity there. So for this reason, they're willing to study there, which is surprising. I've had people at the age of 35 and things like that wanting to study, 35, even 40. And that's the advantage of New Zealand and Australia. They do take mature students. That's a very good thing.
But that's a route towards actually finding employment there, if I understand that
It's a route
correctly.
to finding employment, and both these countries have very good immigration programs which are points-based. And the points come from finding a job there or studying there. So this gives them an advantage there.
But talking about the immigration program, let me go back to Purvi over there. We did discuss how UK has of late sort of become more inviting to Indians. There is a new policy which is in place between the UK government and Indian government as well. Could you take our viewers through some of that?
Yes.
So the UK immigration
Purvi,
authorities
please. Yeah.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah.
The UK immigration authorities for a short while had stopped the post-graduation employment opportunities for foreign students. However, a few months ago, they have reinstated that. And that is really very attractive because it allows students who graduated from a UK university to stay in the country for 2 years, even if they're looking for a job. And if you have a doctorate degree, if you graduated with a doctorate degree, you can stay there for 3 years. So these are very attractive. Now, when you compare that with the United States gives you optional practical training where you can stay for 1 year, provided you find a job. If after graduating within 6 months you don't find a job, you've got to leave the country. So that gives a very small window of opportunity to students who graduate after paying crores of rupees in fees. UK fees are also cheaper than the United States. So UK is definitely gaining momentum.
Right, and perhaps also in the United States, the change in the administration has also sort of brought in some confidence. But the trend that we saw with students at least was that earlier, like we said, if 1 in 3 students traveling abroad was going to UK, that seems to be going to US, beg your pardon, that trend seems to be shifting. Kishore, you were trying to make a point.
Yes, I wanted to say that UK has now introduced an immigration program, which is concerned with a certain amount of salary, somewhere around £26,000 or higher. So if people get that kind of salary, they also get points and they can manage to stay back. Now that's a really important thing, apart from what you said just now about the 2-year post-study work visa, because that is extremely important to enable the students to get a job there and get that kind of a salary. So all these countries now, Australia, UK, New Zealand, Canada, have got points-based systems, which encourage people
on that,
to go to
on
these
that note,
countries.
let's quickly slip into a break. When we come back, Vivek has been waiting very patiently, and Vivek has a very fascinating story because his wife is already abroad, and he actually was had a running business here which he's about to close or has closed already, and now willing to start from scratch there again. We'll get to hear his story on the other side of this very quick break. Welcome back. On FYI today, we are talking about this emerging trend of Indians wanting to migrate abroad. Is that a COVID phenomena is the question we are raising. We also have with us Vivek now. Vivek, why don't you go ahead and tell us your story and what's calling you to New Zealand?
So basically, I made this decision. So me and my wife, even before marriage, when we were dating, we had made this decision to move abroad. So New Zealand was the second country we were looking for. We were going to pursue UK first. But then back in 2019, UK was not open for the post-study work visa. So that's the reason we chose New Zealand. And I'd been to New Zealand before. I loved the country. I liked the place, and I was immediately in love with the country, and I wanted to migrate as soon as possible. So after marriage, my wife always wanted to study abroad, and she wanted to pursue higher education. So she wanted to get a teacher's degree, and so we went ahead with New Zealand, and she went to she got the student visa immediately after applying, and within 2 months. And February 2020, she went to New Zealand. So she has been there since then.
But you were working here, right?
Yeah, so I used to run a business. I used to run a merchandising company in India, in Mumbai. And I had just, after applying my visa in Jan 2020, I had just given up the business. So I had moved out of the business in thinking
That's
that
how sure you were about,
yeah. So
about
I was
moving
thinking
out?
that I would be, I was hoping that I would get the visa within April, like within 2-3 months of time after she goes. And within a month, like in March, the lockdown happened and the world was
Vivek, can you
closed.
tell me, has COVID made it tougher or easier for you to apply for visa?
It has been difficult because New Zealand has been quite strict with all its terms and conditions, and they have been not letting in people who even have a valid work visa or otherwise. And it's getting a bit difficult right now, but but I guess it's for good. It's for a better future. Probably they have 0 cases right now, and my wife is able to roam there without any mask, without wearing any mask right now, and that has been the condition since last July. So it's been a year without mask for her. And I don't know when we can
Lots of takeaways from what Vivek has said. It is not just the lush green New Zealand, closer to nature, closer to wildlife, but it's also the fact that there is freedom. And these countries, though equally hit by the COVID pandemic, has managed to move back into normalcy much quicker. That's what I'm taking away from what you've said, Vivek. Let me also get a word from Jyoti. Jyoti, lots of people like Vivek right now saying that, well, you know, we are young, let's take this challenge, we'll see how it goes for a couple of years and perhaps think it through. In your, you know, clients as well, is that the sentiment you pick up?
The sentiment is strong currently because people have seen a down into the whole entire environment. But this drive of going out, studying and working has always been there. It's not that it's been like really people are wanting to go now. Like I heard the speakers say here that they had already planned it. So most of them have been wanting to go out, especially the youth has always been wanting because the grass on the other side is always greener and sometimes it is really green. So you do see those, but there are a lot of limitations where our country is growing. But I still don't agree that everyone wants to go back. Like you just said, there are people who are coming back also investing in our country because I think India is going to be a land of opportunities. And these youngsters may study out, but they may still come back.
Sure.
But yes, the COVID currently has done it, and it's actually, you know, I think it's always been there, and it's just that COVID has made parents a bit scared and the children more wanting to move out to a more open land and see where there's more education and more protocols, correct procedures and protocols in place. Because I think that is what we
where there are
needed.
vaccines, because that's the only difference about whether or not you can walk out free without mask. Purvi quickly wants to come and go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
So I want to tell you that yes, the youngsters have always been wanting to go abroad, but what you mentioned earlier and we sort of glossed over it is many of them are insisting that their parents move. Yes. And it's very easy to move parents to the United States, Australia, Canada, etc. And we're seeing a huge surge in that. Parents who were reluctant to move because it's boring for them, they don't have a life in these countries, are now willing to move because they have been shaken up by the infrastructure and lack thereof in India. So I'm seeing a bigger trend in that. So youngsters were always there, but the older people are also moving. We are also seeing a different trend that rich people are moving. Rich people are making investments in these countries and then moving on what is known as an investor visa. The spike in that has been exponential. So again, those are people who can choose a better lifestyle and don't have to go through the workforce, education, etc.
Right.
They're just paying money and going.
All right. Thank you all. That's all the time we have on the program today, but lots of interesting sort of trends have emerged out of this conversation. We wait to see what happens next. And to all our case studies, thank you so much and good luck with life abroad. We hope it is a good one, and perhaps you can write back to us and tell us some feedback about how it went as well. That's all the time we have on the show. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.